everybody, SONGOSHUAKU here!
And welcome to my review for the final WWE pay-per-view of the year, WWE TLC 2018. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe button followed by hitting the notification bell so that way you are notified as soon as my content is released. Alright, so as you guys go about your everyday life, whether you're commuting to work, school, or even working out the gym, doing chores at home, or whatever it is you do as you go throughout life, hope you enjoy this content to listen to, as I will break down, indeed, the final pay-per-view of WWE for this year. Just to let you guys know, the man 0001, who normally is my guest here, will not be able to join me, as unfortunately he is not feeling well right now. So on behalf of me and our normal listeners who like listening your insight, man 0001, please do indeed get well soon. That being said, guys, without further ado, let's get started with the first match. And that comes from the kickoff show, Buddy Murphy defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Cedric Alexander. So yeah, this was pretty much a rematch from the Super Showdown. I get the feeling I think these two fought before that as well. No, yeah, I think this was a rematch, but I don't keep up with 205, so please forgive me out there for those of you that do. But anyways, this match was pretty decent. I like the Super Showdown match a lot better. However, that said, good stuff here. Fast, high-flying action, you know, stuff you would expect from the Cruiserweights. Overall, pretty good, solid match. And I did find it interesting during the ending when Alexander hit the lumbar check, and it's like he pulled back, you know, pretty much 3/4 of Murphy's limbs, and I was like, go ahead and put the other, he's gonna take the leg and put it on the ropes, go ahead and pull back the leg, he didn't, and of course Murphy got his foot on the rope. And then of course at the end Murphy hits the, what was his finisher called? Murphy's Law, I believe it was, to secure the final victory in this feud, I guess, that's going to be going on between them as he retains the Cruiserweight Championship. So once again, fun match. I didn't like it as much as their Super Showdown, but it was really decent for what it was, and like I said, great high-flying action. It will be very interesting to see if this plays a factor now in terms of the next challenger for Buddy Murphy, if that will be Mustafa Ali, because he's basically been getting some big moments here on SmackDown the past couple of weeks. So maybe WWE Creative has bigger plans for him. Maybe. We can hope, right? That being said, let's move on to the next pre-show matchup. A ladder match between Elias and Bobby Lashley, where a guitar is hanging from the ceiling or whatever. We're having ladder matches with guitars. Like, it's like, what do we put up there now? We've had briefcases, we had titles. Let's just put a guitar up there. You know, like many people, you know, I like Bobby Lashley, I like Elias, I definitely like, you know, Leo Rush out there as well as Bobby Lashley's manager and their whole shtick that they do and everything, but it's just been very repetitive. I feel like we've seen this match several times, you know, it's been on television, I don't know how many times this year. I mean, they've switched it up, you know, switching Bobby to heel and Elias to face, but yeah, it's a match we've seen so many times, and I think a lot of people, like, as well as myself, were confused exactly what was going on with the rules of this match. Like, initially, were we told that whoever grabs the guitar, it doesn't end the match, but you can use it on your opponent, but then it's whoever grabs the guitar wins, so whatever. Overall, actually, for a ladder match, I thought it was pretty decent, actually, especially on the kickoff show. They were doing some really hard-hitting stuff with the ladders and slams on the ladders and stuff, so I thought it was decent and solid for what it was, and of course, at the end, Elias ends up getting the victory when he grabs the guitar, but they allow Bobby Lashley to get the heat back when then he slams the guitar from behind to Elias, and then from there, I think, was it Lio Rush gets the frog splash? I forget what combination it was in, but overall, decent match for the kickoff show, and it looks like these guys are not done yet, as they'll be facing each other next week on Monday Night Raw for the Christmas Eve special and a street fight or something like that. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna see it again, even though Monday Night Raw we were promised new matchups. So okay, so yeah. Anyways, if you see the match, fine. If not, I don't say you have to go out of your way. It's more or less the same with what you've seen with these guys. You know, two talented guys, but it'd be nice to see them, you know, match up with for newer faces, and hopefully we'll get that soon enough after the Monday Night Raw special for next week. Our next match was the Mixed Match Challenge Finals, featuring Alicia Fox and Jinder Mahal versus R-Truth and Carmella. Now, unfortunately, in terms of just trying to keep up with the Mixed Match Challenge, my schedule got way too busy, so I only got to see like the first half of it. But my understanding is this whole Mixed Match Challenge kind of just, in terms of plans, fell apart with injury after injury and switch-ups and teams and stuff, and this is where we ended up heading. So the match, it was the opening match, actually, of the main card, and it was, I have to really say, I don't know if they've done it on SmackDown fully and everything, but I did like the entrance for R-Truth and Carmella. I dig the, you know, I always like when R-Truth was able to make, you know, different alternatives to his song What's Up and everything. I think it's always really pretty cool. I like back in the day, well, not back in the day, right? It was only, what, 6, 7, 8 years ago or whatever, back when R-Truth and Miz were a team, and the Awesome Truth, and they did the little remix and everything. But yeah, I really dug the entrance here. Match was okay, but in the end, Carmella gets the what is her finisher called? The Code of Silence, I believe. She gets that on Alicia Fox and makes Alicia Fox tap out. And to me, the big part of the match was the ending, because the winners not only go on in their respective Royal Rumbles to be number 30, so we all know Carmella and R-Truth. I'm really hoping they're going to do something hilarious, like R-Truth maybe comes out in the Women's Royal Rumble at number 30 instead of Carmella, or maybe he shows up at number 1 and they have to remind him that he's actually number 30. I'm pretty sure they'll do something goofy and wacky with that. So that I'm looking forward to when the Royal Rumble comes in 2019. But they chose a free R-Truth chose a free trip, because that was another part, is that you not only get number 30 in your respective Royal Rumble match, but you also get to go to a free trip of your choosing, and the trip is the WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. And yeah, you know, I wonder though, how many fans would love a free trip to WWE headquarters, you know, to be able to walk around and see where, you know, this is where all the big decisions are made corporately for WWE. I mean, I think a lot of fans would actually enjoy that. Hey, I probably wouldn't mind myself. That being said, decent starter match for what it was, and now we shall move on to the next match. The WWE Tag Team SmackDown Championship match, which was the Bar defending the titles against the Usos and the New Day. So, like I said earlier, with Elias and Bobby Lashley, there's only so many times you can see the same match over. We've seen these three teams in the same matches, same, you know, combinations of the same matchups, you know, against one another, the other team, or maybe even against each other. And hey, don't get me wrong, you can put all 7 of these guys out there, and they're not going to stink up the joint. We know that. You're always going to get a good match, and that's more or less what you got here. It was good stuff, back and forth action, these guys, you know, doing a lot of the same stuff you've seen before, and it was good entertainment, you know, really good, solid match. In the end, Sheamus ends up getting Woods with the bro kick to get the title win. I mean, not title win, but the title defense. Yeah, but it's like even a good thing. I just feel like they spammed this match too much. And this is no knock, like, at the town. Like, all 3 of these teams are really good, and we've seen them all in good matches, but I just feel it's time for there to be more. There's time for new teams to be matched up with these guys. You know, even put them on some different brand. Maybe some of these guys go to Raw, the others stay on SmackDown with new teams. You know, just some fresh matchups. And based on what we saw tonight on SmackDown, as I'm recording this after SmackDown, what we saw on SmackDown, they are indeed bringing new teams in here to feud with these guys, as we saw, you know, Sanity, you saw the Club, right? you saw that. So hopefully this is a nice new direction for some new matchups, because like I said, all these teams are very talented, but it's just, I feel it's time for us, the fans, to see these talents spread among new matchups, you know, because there's a lot of talent on that SmackDown roster, just in that tag team division in general, and I just think we all want to see new matchups. That said, let's move on to the next match, which was the first of 2 TLC matches: Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin. So the stipulation was that if Braun Strowman wins, he moves on to the Royal Rumble to face Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship one-on-one for a 3rd time. If Baron Corbin wins, then he becomes the permanent general manager of Monday Night Raw. Now, of course, a lot of us knew, had been following the story or the reports online from various wrestling websites, that Braun Strowman, his elbow he needed surgery on his elbow, and he did indeed get the surgery that he needed. But there was question wondering if he would be cleared a good enough time for this match, so they had to play the smokes and mirrors, and that's pretty much what this ended up being. It was a match, but it was more of a segment than a match. So basically, Baron Corbin comes out thinking that he even was on the pre-show, having JoJo rehearse that Baron Corbin was going to be the winner and everything. However, he even told her, like, make sure you announce it as if your job depended on it and stuff. So I thought that was pretty nice heel work there for Baron Corbin. But basically, Strowman comes out and says that, you know, he's basically saying Corbin's made a lot of enemies, and so his enemies come out, and we've got Chad Gable, Bobby Roode, Finn Balor. You had, who else? You had Heath Slater, who was the referee appointed to him after what he did with Rhino. And you had Apollo Crews. Yeah, you had Apollo Crews. So yeah, these guys basically came out, had a bunch of steel chairs, and Braun Strowman mentioned that there's no disqualification in a TLC match, and these guys just beat the crap out of Baron Corbin with the steel chair into the gut, into the back, over and over and over. And when Baron Corbin tries to go, we hear that music, it's Kurt Angle, you know, and Angle comes out, grabs his chair, and then he starts basically really welling into Baron Corbin's shoulders, and he gets the Angle slam. Everyone hits their signature / finishing moves, and Braun Strowman just walks in and puts his foot over Baron Corbin. 1, 2, 3. Corbin is done as GM, and Braun Strowman moves on to the Royal Rumble, where he will now face Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. Considering the circumstances of Strowman needing that surgery, it was about the best WWE could honestly do. And hey, the fans, Corbin gets the heel heat. The fans don't like Corbin, and so I say it was exactly what it needed to be, and it did what it needed to be. And I mean, it did what it needed to do. And Corbin, they did more or less the same, which I thought that segment on Monday Night Raw went on way too long with the McMahons. And I mean, yeah, it was tremendous heel heat, but I was like, all right, let's move it up, because this is like the first 20-25 minutes of Raw, right? That being said, they did more or less the same on Monday Night Raw with Baron Corbin, and now he's going to face Seth Rollins. So Corbin's going to move back onto a talent. Hey, I know a lot of people don't like Baron Corbin as the, you know, when he started doing the Constable, but I think it's really cool to see Corbin has found his way to get a featured, been able to get feature segments and be in featured storylines on the WWE main programming. So hopefully things work out for Baron Corbin. You know, he's got a lot of heel heat going for him from the crowds, which is something you don't get a lot, you know, nowadays from fans. And Braun Strowman, will this finally be the moment where they finally pull the trigger on Braun Strowman to have him beat Brock Lesnar? You know, there was a report, I think, going around that Triple H might be thinking about, according to reports, Triple H wants, they want to keep the title on Brock Lesnar, have him drop it at WrestleMania to Seth Rollins. Then there's the reports that Vince McMahon wants to take the title off of Brock Lesnar as soon as the Rumble against Strowman. Which one ends up being true, we shall find out. But honestly, if that's the case, yes, I'm siding with Vince McMahon if these reports are true, because let's get the title off of Brock Lesnar and finally put the title on Braun Strowman. You know, let's just get it done. You know, we want to wait another 4 months for the Universal Championship not being on Monday Night Raw. All right, that being said, let's move on to the next match. Natalya versus Ruby Riott in a tables match. So let's talk a little bit about the build-up to this match. One of my complaints about the use of the Riott Squad all year long, or most of the year, was that when they started having them do what was supposed to be dastardly acts for villains, it's like, really? You know, like when they took mustard and ketchup and squirted it all over Natalya's locker door, the door to her locker, and basically her nameplate, and it's like, really? Natalya's supposed to be emotionally distressed over that? I mean, she doesn't even own the door. She doesn't even probably own the nameplate, you know. And I was comparing it to how things had changed so much when you go back, you know, like 16 years ago, I think it was, when, or at least in 2002, when the NWO threw The Rock into an ambulance, in the storyline, of course, into the ambulance, and they basically took a semi-truck and ran into the ambulance with The Rock inside. Like, you know, that's some, like, dastardly stuff, and it's like, come on. And so WWE did decide to do some more dastardly, have the Riots go into a more dastardly direction by constantly exploiting Natalya's deceased father, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who of course is an all-time legend in WWE. So they did go that route, but a lot of fans felt that it was in bad taste. Now listen, what I've heard a lot is people, you know, wrestlers from Jim the Anvil Neidhart's time in wrestling, a lot of them feel that even if it's an illness or a death, if it can be used in a storyline, and it can help advance business for whatever characters are involved in that storyline, then by all means do it. So if Natalya and her family are okay with it, then hey, it is what it is. Fine. However, I think a lot of us can agree, whether you find the whether you're okay with them going in this direction or not going in this direction for the story, I think a lot of us agree that, you know, there's just more creative ways other than using the real life passing of someone as a way to fill in the gap for a storyline or whatever. You know, it's just like back at WrestleMania 29, The Undertaker versus CM Punk. The main plot point of that storyline was the real life passing of Paul Bear. And, you know, to a lot of fans, you know, a lot of us felt like all you really need to do to sell the story is The Undertaker is undefeated at WrestleMania at that point. He is 20-0, and CM Punk just had one of the longest title reigns in recent memory up to that point. It sells itself, but they decided to go ahead and use Paul Bear's death as a way to sell it, and the family was okay with it. But anyways, enough about the build-up of this match. The match itself, though, for the story that it told, I thought it was fine. The big key moments was Ruby Riott was nearly gonna get launched through a table. She got out the way, and Liv Morgan ended up basically taking the bullet. And man, Liv Morgan took a crashing blow through the table. It looked sick, and she was selling it like her ribs or her stomach had ruptured or her ribs were cracked. And I mean, mean, it definitely looked like a fantastic bump, so much respect for Liv Morgan taking that huge bump through to the table the way she did, and then eventually Sarah Logan also got thrown through the table, so it was nice that Natalya picked off the Riots one by one by launching them through tables. And of course you had the Advil's photo posted onto the table that Ruby had brought in, and Natalya then eventually brings in a table with Ruby Riot on it. And you know, the things here, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, with putting the sticker, the lifestyle stickers on them or whatever. But anyways, eventually Natalya is able to powerbomb Ruby Riot off the ropes through the table and score the win for the feel-good moment. So, that being said, let's move on to the next match. Drew McIntyre versus Finn Balor. This match was decent. Everyone, both men looked fine in it, and in the end, Dolph Ziggler ended up appearing and basically got the well, not drop kick, but the super kick on Drew McIntyre. Of course, on the previous Monday Night Raw, I believe Drew McIntyre, that might have been the episode I didn't watch. I think Drew McIntyre lost to Dolph Ziggler, and then Dolph Ziggler lost the following week before the TLC pay-per-view. However, Ziggler got his revenge, or I think he tried to hit with a chair. He tried to use the chair against McIntyre to no avail, though, and McIntyre ended up basically laying out Dolph Ziggler. However, once he gets back in the ring, Balor was able to do a drop kick to the chair that McIntyre was holding, and I thought he looked like he landed on the chair, and I thought he was going to do a coup de grace onto McIntyre with the chair in the back, but McIntyre is able to get the chair away, and Finn Balor hits the coup de grace anyway. 1, 2, 3, Finn Balor actually wins. So definitely a shock, that surprise. I didn't see this coming. And now they're gonna have a triple threat match on the following Monday Night Raw for the Christmas Eve special. So we'll see where this goes from here. I don't know if they're going to put McIntyre in the main event, but I think he'll at least be a force to be reckoned with, hopefully, in the Royal Rumble. We'll see what plans they've got for them. But I am definitely hoping to see Drew McIntyre in 2019 hopefully be in the main event and even become a World or Universal Champion, because I've been a fan of Drew McIntyre for since he first got to WWE, and I like to see Dolph Ziggler finally get utilized even more, and maybe they don't drop the if they give him a championship, actually let him run with it and everything. And I like to see Finn Balor also have a better 2019. Let's face it, there's a lot of people on this roster that I think would be definitely good to see go new places in 2019. That being said, let's move on to the next match. A chairs match between Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio. So, Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton, these guys have faced before, I think, 10 years ago, and then here they are back in 2018, and they're still doing matches, and I don't mind revisiting feuds and everything, but it would be nice to see Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio both, working with the newer talent as opposed to doing, it seems like ever since Orton turned heel, he's just been revisiting all his matches from the past, and it's nice, but it's nice nostalgia, but it's not really elevating anything new for the future, So a chairs match. I'm really not too big of a fan of these chair matches or these stairs matches, because we see these objects come into play as just setup weapons for the bigger weapons in almost every match that doesn't have disqualification. Sometimes even regular matches, they're used as a way to cause a disqualification. So it's yeah, and we saw chairs so many times earlier, so many chair spots earlier with against Baron Corbin. So yeah, but that being said, I thought the match was fine here. This is probably one of the better chair matches I've seen, probably because of Rey Mysterio. He did a really cool slide where he put the chair under him and he just slid out the ring and landed on Orton. That was cool. There was a spot where Randy Orton was sitting in the chair, and Rey Mysterio goes to run at him, and I guess try to do a splash, but Orton gets out the way, and you know, with his legs open wide, I don't know if it was his groin area or his butt, Rey Mysterio just goes right on the top part of that chair and crashes and burns, and oh man, it looked painful. But it was a great looking spot though for the match. In the end, though, I guess Randy Orton was going to try and set up all these chairs. He was going to try and do an RKO to Rey Mysterio, but instead, Rey Mysterio was able to get Orton down back into a seated position and did some move where he jumped up towards him and was able to roll him up for a win. And there you go. Rey Mysterio walks away with the victory, and yeah. You know, I would say definitely, if you don't check out the match, at least check out those two cool chair spots that Rey Mysterio did. And Randy Orton, of course, you know, he's always good at working as a heel and everything and all that stuff. But like I said, just like I said earlier with the New Day, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, let's see these guys mix it up with some of the newer faces. That's what I would like to see. Alright, so now we're going to talk about what I thought arguably was one of the best matches on the show, and that's the Raw Women's Championship match. Ronda Rousey defending the title against Nia Jax. So yeah, I was there in Chicago, or actually Rosemont, but they billed it as Chicago, at the Allstate Arena in June when both of these women had their first match at Money in the Bank, and I loved seeing that live. It was a great match. Nia Jax took majority of most of that match, and Ronda was really getting a lot of, pretty much, yeah, she took a lot of offense from Nia in that match. And it was, of course, you had Alexa Bliss coming in, so there was always unfinished business between these two up to this point. However, this match right here, Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey, I thought they put on a really good match here. It was much more evenly fought, and it was very well done. Back and forth action. Once again, one of the things I love about Ronda's matches is there's not a lot of, it's like, shoot, you know, fast-paced action. They keep moving. You know, Ronda keeps everything moving. There's action constantly moving in this match, and as I'll mention as I get to another match later on, these women were going at it. Nia's fighting Ronda like she wants that title. Ronda's fighting Nia like she definitely wants to keep that title, and you could feel that in this match, and the crowd was hot for it, and just great stuff. And to me, interesting enough, Tamina didn't really come into play much. There's a point where Ronda did get the armbar nearly on Nia, and then Tamina tries to get on the rope, and Ronda's like, okay, you want this, and come on in here too, or something like that, and ends up, and when she goes for Tamina, Nia ends up trying to, I guess, grab Ronda up for like a Samoan drop or something. I forget what it was exactly, but whatever ends up happening, she doesn't really get that far, and Nia ends up, Ronda ends up all mixed up here. Ronda ends up reversing Nia's move into the armbar, and right before she finishes off, she kisses the face breaker, which is what they named Nia's fist for what she did to Becky Lynch, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So yeah, Ronda Rousey slaps on the armbar and makes Nia tapped out. I liked it. Tremendous match. I liked it better than the match they had at Money in the Bank. It was much more evenly fought. Good stuff. I love it, and that was one of the nicest things I always thought about when it came to Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey matches. You know, especially if you're a casual fan, I feel like you could just look at Nia Jax and you could believe she's someone who could take Ronda Rousey just because of her size advantage over Ronda. But you know, if you know what Ronda's accomplished in her MMA career, you could look and see like, yeah, I could see how Ronda, and you know, on the flip side, if you've followed Ronda's MMA career, you could look at Ronda and know that, all right, I know enough about this woman's MMA career that she could take someone even as big as Nia Jax is over her. So once again, I loved it. And the post-match, so Nia's defeated, and Becky Lynch comes up to her and says, you know, what did she say? I think she said, remember when you said you broke my face? And then she kicks Nia right right in the stomach, and then bam, just nails her with a punch right to the face that sends Nia crashing into like one of the nearby crates or whatever where they keep everything, the steel crates where they put all the equipment in, and just lays Nia out. And Becky basically yells back to her, says, "Keep my name out your mouth," and runs off, or just walks off. And then you see Tamina just comes and storming in, too late to be able to help and everything. And it was great because earlier in the pre-show, Becky Lynch had said that Becky Lynch had went ahead and said that there were debts needed to be collected because she's definitely not done with Ronda or Nia yet. So I thought this was great. Definitely check this match out. And if I had one complaint about the match, honestly, I'm still not feeling the way Ronda does the arm bar. I really liked it the way she did it to Stephanie McMahon back at WrestleMania 34. I've seen other women too in WWE do the arm bar, but you know, do a worked arm bar where it looks like they're applying the pressure, but they're not actually doing it so they don't break the poor woman's arm. And I've heard that it's the idea that Ronda, being that she is a legitimate MMA fighter, she doesn't want to run the risk possibly of breaking the women's arm. But I mean, I thought she did a fantastic job. It looked great against Stephanie, and Stephanie, by all means, I didn't hear any reports that Stephanie's arm was broken or anything. So hopefully in 2019 or in this next match coming up with Natalya, Ronda eventually goes back to doing the arm bar the way we used to see it, at least from WrestleMania 34 standpoint, not in the MMA standpoint, right? We don't want her breaking the women's arms. And speaking of Natalya, yes, if you really felt bad for Natalya going through that storyline where they exploited her father's death, she is now getting a title shot, or excuse me, as they like to call it, title opportunity. Yeah, whatever. The thing is, we'll get to see these women finally go at it in a women's championship match. Maybe that'll be the next program heading into the Royal Rumble, as obviously Ronda is going to have some big plans coming up, and we'll get to that later. But right now, let's move on to the next match, which is the WWE Championship match. AJ Styles taking on the champion, the new Daniel Bryan. This match definitely had the best story build up so far out of all the matches that both these men have had. Can you believe it that these men have fought 3 times or wrestled 3 times on WWE SmackDown, and this is their 4th match in WWE, but the first time that they've wrestled on pay-per-view / WWE Network special, WWE Network special. So it was interesting. The build up to this though has been Daniel Bryan, who I think has been tremendous. If you were a fan of the Straight Edge Society CM Punk, where he basically berated the entire audience for not living his lifestyle, this is exactly sort of what we are getting with Daniel Bryan. Instead of so much of a straight edge twist, it's more so Daniel Bryan's beliefs when it comes to not eating animals, whether I forgot if he's vegan or if he's vegetarian now. I heard he was vegan at one point, then went to vegetarian because it was so hard to find vegan food on the road. Maybe he's changed that now. And just talking about polluting the earth and just what people do every day that harms the earth, and he's basically being a jerk to everybody for it, and I love it. This is great. I love that Daniel Bryan has reinvented himself and just didn't go back to just doing the whole no, like he was doing before as a heel, before the Yes Movement really kicked into high gear. And I just think it's a tremendous testament to Daniel Bryan's talents of how over he was able to get as a babyface and get the biggest reactions, and to just now how he's getting the biggest boos, so tremendous work. And AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, 2 of the best wrestlers in the world, obviously. Not what that thing was going on with Shane McMahon, but I mean legitimately 2 of the best professional wrestlers in the world going at it. And the match did have its slow start, kind of had a slow start, but it picked up as it went along. But I won't say it takes away from the match, because these 2 wrestlers went out there and performed a dang good wrestling match. match. Lots of great counters, lots of great submission holds, lots of great back and forth action between these two. Nothing less than you would expect from a Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles match. And I do feel there is more that we can get out of these two to really create an all-time classic that WWE fans will not forget for a long time to come. You know, that type of match that years from now fans will be talking about, years after Daniel and AJ Styles have both retired, still fans will be talking about it. And maybe we'll get that match at the Royal Rumble, because as this match ended, after so many just so many great basically back and forth action, to really recap here, but Daniel Bryan ends up rolling up AJ Styles for the clean win. 1, 2, 3 in the ring. AJ Styles loses clean, and I don't even remember the last time AJ Styles lost a match clean on WWE TV, and Daniel Bryan wins. And this is the type of legitimacy that he needs, because after seeing him you know, resort to the low blow to beat AJ Styles, what this proved in the storyline is that Daniel Bryan doesn't need to resort to cheap tactics. Yes, he's a heel. Yes, he's being a jerk to the fans by trying to push his beliefs on him in the storyline, but it shows that at the end of the day, Daniel Bryan is able to get the job done 100% clean and beat AJ Styles. And we'll see how this leads into their next match, as it looks like these two are not done with each other. So I'm expecting an all-time WWE Classic Royal Rumble championship match at the Royal Rumble to finish off the feud between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. So definitely one of the best matches on this card. Definitely go ahead and check it out. Now we move on to the next match. And what a disappointing match. In fact, the most disappointing match on the card was this. The Intercontinental Championship match, Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. And yes, it pains me to say disappointing match, because I'm a fan of both of these guys' works, but I mean, just listen to the crowd. The crowd themselves were saying this is boring. And you could tell Seth Rollins, the next night on Monday Night Raw, even mentioned in his promo, you know, that he was disappointed, you know, bringing up the performance and everything. You know, let's go back to the heel turn. We talked about earlier about how these matches, you know, like with Natalya and the Riot Squad, you know, using distasteful matters as a way to build the storyline. They exploited Roman Reigns' real-life illness of leukemia and used that as the way for Dean Ambrose to turn heel. Now, I thought as far as the way the heel turn was executed, it definitely got off to a hot start. But then it basically, you know, just as Aaron Riff of NoDQ.com put it, it's basically a heel version of the babyface character he had mostly been paying. They were just doing the comedy. Instead, he's basically just, you know, bashing the fans, you know, from the gas mask, talking about the fans stink, and talking, you know, what was he taking, like shots up his butt cheeks and stuff, you know, just stuff like that. And it's like, it's not the sadistic evil Dean Ambrose that I think a lot of us who had been wanting his heel turn was expecting. But you let go of all the storyline. You like, these two can put on some great matches. Anyone who remembers those sets of matches they had from that 2014 to 2016 period that Seth Rollins was the heel and Dean Ambrose was the babyface, they had some really good matches. So now, you know, it's been a few years since these guys had wrestled, and now the roles are reversed. Should be awesome. And yeah, this definitely, out of all the matches I've seen, was not the best of their work. You know, you think back to that Hell in a Cell match they had in, what, 2014? That had a hot start. Both these guys went up the cell and were beating the crap out of each other like they wanted to kill and rip each other's heads off. And we didn't get that here. You know, the match fairly started off with a tie-up, and it's like, you think Seth Rollins would want to rip Dean Ambrose's head off. He's finally got the chance to get him in the ring, and after all the stuff he said about the Shield and Roman, yeah, that being said, it was a lot of where Dean Ambrose worked over Seth Rollins' leg, and it was one of those very methodical, slow-paced matches, and it lacked intensity to me, to be honest. The match just lacked intensity. I wanted to, like I mentioned in the previous couple of matches between Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey, both women fought each other like that title meant everything to them, and in this match it just lacked that intensity, and at the end, I mean, Seth Rollins definitely towards the end was trying his best with the trash talking, trying to bring that extra intensity to the match, but in the end it did play into the story. Seth Rollins' emotions got the better of him, and he ran right into Dean Ambrose's dirty deeds, and Dean picked up the 100% clean victory. Interesting enough, they projected Renee Young, who is Dean Ambrose's real-life wife. She was coming off more of a heel, really siding a lot with her husband. So it's very interesting to hear Renee Young sort of be a heel, being biased for her husband, and then be the babyface for the other matches. So I did think that was pretty interesting on commentary. But man, this match just lacked intensity, the intensity that we were used to seeing in their matches, and that set of matches from 2014 to 2016 it was. I mean, even their first big match at SummerSlam that year, which was like a lumberjack match, which a lot of fans felt like the whole lumberjack stipulation got in the way of the match, but those two were still fighting each other like they wanted to rip each other's heads off. So yeah, maybe there'll be another match. They've done away with the whole, as they mentioned on Monday Night Raw, they've done away with the whole, rematch clause situation, which I think actually might be a good thing moving forward, because it now means like, oh, if there's a new champion and it's been a long running feud, we don't have to worry about the title, this going on, I think that's the way it was back in the Attitude Era, wasn't it? You didn't really have really title clauses, so the wrestlers just had to find a way to get another rematch by winning another match or something like that. But yeah, the match just lacked intensity to me, and maybe they'll have another one where they can have a more intense match. We'll see in the coming weeks. They even use this as they put these two on the main poster for this, and they had the Intercontinental Championship match basically co-main event this show and go over the WWE title match, which I don't think really main evented at all this year, to the exception of Fastlane. But yeah, unfortunately, it's really sad. I was wishing more out of this match, but hey, Dean Ambrose is the Intercontinental Champion, and hopefully they take him in a more sadistic, evil role as a heel, and there's rumored to be big plans for Seth Rollins possibly taking on Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania for the Universal title. So if anything, it does mean good things coming towards Seth Rollins' way, and hopefully something good will come out of the heel turn and the Intercontinental Championship with Dean Ambrose. Now we move on to the main event, the first ever women's triple threat TLC match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. The women's champion of SmackDown, the man, Becky Lynch, versus the Queen, Charlotte Flair, versus the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. Now, Becky and Charlotte have no doubt teared the house down with their feud for pretty much the later part of 2018, and they had a fantastic classic at the Evolution pay-per-view. So when I heard Asuka was being added to the mix here, I was glad, because let's face it, these two women, what could they have done to top that? Let's wait a while before these two have another one-on-one match. So having Asuka added some much freshness to this match, but some familiarity between the 50% of the four horsewomen of WWE, right? But that being said, the storyline here, or the more so, I should say, reports that we're hearing from backstage, from others, from wrestling sites, is that Asuka impressed Vince McMahon so much when Becky went up to her, how she got such a huge ovation despite the fact of the way she was booked, that made Vince McMahon rethink things and be like, they got to put Asuka here back in the main event for the women. And yeah, nobody's gonna disagree with that. She should have been in this spot. But needless to say, I thought they did a great job. This is the match I was looking forward to the most, because I really wasn't looking forward to TLC until they announced this match. So I'm glad all three of these women ended up getting to main event. And what a match, what a main event this was. This definitely deserved to be the main event. It's so much craziness. Let's just get through some of these spots here from what I can remember off the top of my head. There was a spot where, you know, they were trash talking in the beginning of the match. Charlotte and Becky, and then Asuka ended up started off with all the action and everything. So the big spot first one that happened is Becky's on the top turnbuckle, and unfortunately, you can hear Becky call the spot where she's telling Asuka, closer. And, you know, I was looking at it as like, yeah, whatever she's about to do, she definitely needs to bring that ladder closer. So it was unfortunate that got picked up. Just speaking of little technical issues, I don't know if anyone noticed, but every time, for at least the majority of times someone won a match, it felt like a incomplete graphic at about 10 or 15% was showing up. Like the graphic was like only 10 to 15% done. Like would just flash every time someone won a match. It looked like it was part of the graphic that they used to show the replays. That kept happening almost over and over and over, on almost every match. So that was a little weird technical. But back to the match. So yeah, Asuka does indeed bring the ladder closer, and she just slams Becky from the top rope back first onto the ladder. Oh, that had to suck. You know, and Becky's in pain, rolls out the ring. What are some of the other spots we had here? I remember there's oh yeah, when they went out to the ring, there's a part where Asuka and Charlotte are both placed on the announce table, and so Becky decides to go ahead and recreate the spot she did with Charlotte at Evolution. So she goes all the way to the top of the ladder and jumps off with a double leg drop, and basically Asuka manages to get out the way in time. She's like, F this, I'm not gonna be a part of this. She gets out of harm's way. Charlotte's still on the table, and so Becky comes crashing down full weight on Charlotte's stomach, and the table does not break. And you're like, oh, that had to suck, that had to hurt, and they had to even bleep out because Charlotte is in pain. The woman is clearly cursing, and they had to mute the audio for it, and then the table breaks. So you knew that had to not feel good for Charlotte, but the visual looked great. It looked even more painful than the one we saw at the Evolution pay-per-view. There was a lot of kendo sticks involved, with Charlotte just whacking the crap out of both Asuka and Becky. And Becky even at one point had the chair, and she was whacking the crap out of both Asuka and Charlotte with it. There was a table spot in the ring where Asuka powerbombed Charlotte right into the table, and the very near bottom of the table, it broke. That looked painful because I was hoping that Charlotte's neck was okay. You know, usually they go right through the middle of the ring. There was another cool spot where Charlotte outside set Becky up on the table, and instead of going for the traditional moonsault, she went for the senton bomb, and bam, just basically, you talk about also her full body weight went crashing right through Becky through the table. And it's interesting she did do that because last time she tried that in the ring, the table did not break. Maybe Charlotte wasn't, after she did the moonsault, she wasn't able to get enough momentum going, and basically it didn't break the table, so she decided to go to the senton this time, probably most likely to make sure it did break. and the table did indeed break on its first attempt. What are some of the other cool spots we had? Oh, there was a point where Asuka was able to lay out Becky, but Charlotte came out of nowhere and speared her right into the barricade. It didn't completely explode, but it did look painful the way it broke, and the way Asuka and just Charlotte just ran Asuka right into it. Yeah, these women were killing each other, and it was a great match. Like, you know, I talked about intensity earlier that we didn't get in that Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins match. We got the intensity for sure here, and of course, you know, you get more ways to do that when you have a gimmick match like this. But let's get to the finish here, because that's where the real interesting tell all of this match and the storylines of what is developing here came into play. So after a crazy match towards the end, you know, the Asuka's nearly got the title. Charlotte comes in, knocks Asuka down from the ladder, and then Becky comes in, and her and Charlotte are both fighting on the ladder, and they're fighting to try and get that women's championship. But then out comes Rowdy Ronda Rousey, who obviously has unfinished business. You know, there's been a lot of trash talk going back and forth between the three women. So Ronda comes in, she goes under one of the ladders to the ladder that Charlotte and Becky are on, and they're looking down and they know exactly what's coming, and the fans are booing, you know. But apparently I don't think this was a heel turn for Ronda, but if you listen to that reaction, you probably might as well think she did turn heel. So she pushes over the ladder, and both Charlotte and Becky come crashing down onto the ropes and end up rolling out the ring, and they are done. And Ronda even slightly takes her hand and sarcastically pushes the ladder one more time as she's made her marks, and she just walks off with a purpose. And all that's left in the ring is Asuka. The fans go from booing Ronda out the building to cheering Asuka up the ladder. So Asuka's climbing the ladder, she grabs the title, and bam! There you have it. Asuka, the new WWE SmackDown Women's Champion. Wow. So this was a tremendous match, and the Dark Horse wins. Asuka is finally the SmackDown Women's Champion, and yes, I got up, yes, I marked out and clapped and everything, even though I know how some of these things can go. They could lose the title right off. But hey, that wasn't the case, because as we saw on SmackDown, Asuka did indeed defend the title, not against Becky and Charlotte, who want their revenge on Ronda, but rather Asuka would end up taking on Naomi, who just went out there and told the boss, Vince McMahon, today, give me the match, and there you go, because they're not doing the rematch clauses anymore. And that was a very good match too. It was nice to see Naomi finally back in the title picture too as well, and her and Asuka had a nice match, considering that they were comedy. They were used as comedy figures, basically, I think, for the better part of most of this year now together. So like sort of like maybe a little comedy team or something like that. But yeah, it's very interesting. You know, if you were to watch the Royal Rumble and TLC, these are the only two main events you watched all year in WWE, you would look at the Royal Rumble and be like, oh, Asuka wins the Royal Rumble, cool. And then you see the TLC match, Asuka's a champion, good year for Asuka. I wonder if anyone would be like that. I'm pretty sure they would wonder what happens in the in-between. But this is very fascinating, because you think about Asuka all year, and I know, you know, me and my guests, like the man 0001, SMP, you know, I couldn't tell you how many times in these reviews all throughout the year we kept saying, what are they doing with Asuka? It is a shame of how much of a far cry Asuka is from what she was in NXT. And they really started off the year hot with Asuka. Asuka was undefeated. She won the Royal Rumble. Her and Charlotte had an amazing match, and then she lost, and they didn't really capitalize that on that much with Charlotte right after. You know, Charlotte really didn't start coming back into the main event picture until like SummerSlam, and that's when her and Becky had the big feud. And for the whole year, it's like, what are they doing with Asuka? And then here at the end of the year, they put the title on Asuka, and it's like, wow. So I don't know, you guys ever remember out there? And please leave comments in the section, in the comment sections. Please leave comments if you can remember where someone had such a amazing hot start to the year, and then they were just like what the heck is going on with them all throughout the year. Like, there was even points where Asuka wasn't even on TV. She wasn't even getting TV time. And then here in the main event of the final event of the year for WWE, pay-per-view event of the year, now she's got the Holy Grail. She's got the richest prize for the SmackDown Women's Division, and that's the SmackDown Women's Championship. So, you know, I guess it's one of those cases, you know, all that's well ends well. It all started well for Asuka, and hey, by the end of the year, it all ends well for Asuka. And I guess we'll just have to forget and ignore what happened in the middle of the year. I hope that in 2019, they go all the way with Asuka and give her a nice, lengthy, long, dominant title reign and make up for lost time in 2018, because by this point, Asuka could have had a dominant reign, and maybe you could have had Becky Lynch get this moment where she defeats Asuka. Hopefully this doesn't mean that Asuka is gonna just drop the title to Charlotte Flair in a rematch at WrestleMania, because if that's the case, I would have preferred Charlotte Flair win and then Asuka gets her big moment from there. So we'll see what this means, but clearly Becky Lynch and Charlotte, it almost looks like they're forming a triple threat match between her and Ronda Rousey. But no doubt, I'm hoping the big match or even big main event for WrestleMania is Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey, with Becky Lynch going over and handing Ronda Rousey her first defeat in WWE. Now that's what I'm thinking, but we got to see where this goes. Maybe they'll do Charlotte versus Ronda. Where's it gonna go? We got to see. It definitely right now has the potential for a triple threat match, and overall, you know, you had the McMahons are back in charge now, and they say the new WWE is gonna occur with the fans, you know, that they're listening to the fans. And honestly, for me, I'll rather see it. I'll believe it when I see it. You know, that Raw, even though we did get some new faces, it still seemed like it was the whole idea of let's put these long segments out, or these long matches like they did with the Gauntlet women's match, because they couldn't think of another way to really fill up the 3 hours and everything. And I'm not saying the matches were bad, but you know, it just seemed like they couldn't find a way, you know. But let's see what it looks like in 2019. Maybe they are gonna try, because let's be honest, folks, if you've been a fan of the WWE, at least going as far back as the Attitude Era or even further, then you know that the past 20 years, the McMahons have basically, while they are truly the authority behind the scenes, they've been also the on-screen authority figures, both off and on, for pretty much the past 20 years. So I don't exactly count the McMahons being in charge as something fresh. And on top of that, they said the fans, we are now the authority. Not even sure what that means. So like I said, yeah, I will believe it when I see it. Overall, the year of 2018 for WWE, I kind of thought was, hey, we got some good matches, but a lot of these storylines and booking decisions and even big moments of big superstars coming back, it just, to me, it underwhelmed. And hopefully we can get some better storylines on top of the great matches in 2018. But that being said, this concludes my review of NXT. NXT, right? NXT was awesome. NXT was great this year. You know, I thought, you know, with so many call-ups last year, I thought the current roster of NXT really stood up. You know, the current roster of NXT really stepped up to the plate. But in terms of WWE TLC, I would say go out of your, if you're not gonna watch the whole show, go out of your way to at least watch the Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey match, the Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles match, and most definitely, if there's one match you choose to watch this TLC triple threat women's match between Becky, Charlotte, and Asuka. That for dang sure is what I say stole the show, and it's the main event, so as it should, right? So that being said, it's been a blast doing all these WWE reviews all year long. I definitely enjoyed it as filler content as I work on my short film Battle Deception. You know, it allowed me to create content, and I watch WWE WWE, so why not go ahead and at least talk about the big shows, you know, at least watch those shows, right? But that being said, I will definitely be back. While I can't guarantee in 2019 I'll do all the shows like big major shows like I did, I definitely will at least do the big main NXT ones and the big WWE shows like the Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, WrestleMania, all that stuff, you know, Money in the Bank probably and everything. We'll see how that looks, but definitely I will be back with a review for the next NXT TakeOver show and the Royal Rumble in 2019. So definitely until then, guys, hope you enjoy. More content to come on the YouTube channel. And with that said in mind, here are my plugs. So if you obviously are a fan of WWE or professional wrestling, we'll be doing more audio reviews like this for big events that you can listen to as you go about your everyday life. Also, if you're a fan of Dragon Ball, shonen manga, or anime adapted from shonen manga, make sure to check out my upcoming short film, Battle of Deception, as it's based on those types of genres. I currently have lots of videos such as the teaser trailer and the behind the scene interview videos right here on my channel, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified as soon as I release more content regarding Battle of Deception, Dragon Ball, and even WWE. And make sure to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and Instagram, both at SonGoshuaku. All links will be in the description below. Take care!